You're listening to SM Media.
Hello, folks, and welcome to our new look series for the jump racing season for 2025. As we start our countdown to Cheltenham, I'm Scott McPike. It is always a delight to be your host. We are back for a new season, new look, new feel. We are back to look at what is happening in the jump racing world. This episode, we're going to focus on kind of some questions that we got. We're going to a wee kind of nice start into the new season, and then next week we'll obviously take a look at what we usually do. We take a look at the kind of action over the weekend and we kind of the big news, discuss the big news. For the new series, it is always a pleasure to welcome my co-host. It is a delight to welcome from the Scottish Daily Mail, Callum McClurkin. Callum, how are we? It is that time again.
Yeah, jump season in full swing now. The start of it. Yeah, exciting as always. A real one to whet the appetite was it Down Royal and the Champion Chase, a cracking duel. That's kind of that set the tone. And if you weren't enthusiastic for the season to start, I just would to watch that finish and that between Envoy and Hewitt. And yeah, hopefully we'll get a lot more races like that for the whole season.
And as always, it's that kind of time of year where we're kind of in the middle of we're just at that kind of bridge between the end of the flat season. The Breeders' Cup's only just been, and now we've got into kind of jumps. It's kind of now basically until April. Every week is jump racing kind of week. But in terms of the flat season, like, what was the kind of big takeaways? I know we've obviously just had the Breeders' Cup where City of Troy disappointed, but I don't think we can underestimate. He was probably the start of the flat racing season. Is that fair?
It was definitely the talking horse, the new kind of thing in the block that kind of elevated the flat season a little bit. He was tremendous in the Derby, although the form of that probably isn't working out too strongly, but his international performance was really good from the front. It's a strong kind of galloping type, holding off Calandigan, who went very close in Champion Stakes at Royal Ascot and probably was a bit unlucky. So that is probably the highest class 3-year-old form around. They went for the Classic. They said they were going to do that at the start of the season, have a tilt at it, and it just found them out. It went badly wrong. He didn't handle it, and that's semi-acceptable. He's off the stud, standing for 75,000, which seems maybe a bit steep, but I think with the kind of unknowns about him, Brian, he said he's our Frankel. He hasn't quite done it on numbers. Maybe the opposition hasn't beaten, isn't of the depth of kind of like a great like a Sea the Stars or a Frankel. He can't really be put in that bracket. I think he's actually going to go down on form as kind of a really kind of a champion 2-year-old that trained on at 3 that was above average without kind of. I don't really think we've found his ceiling, which is kind of the main kind of slight regret about things. And I think there's a lot more in him in the turf. I think if he trained on at 4, like Frankel did eventually, I think he could have maybe formed a kind of a real legacy. He's kind of retired on a low note in the back burner a little bit. So I think Ian O'Brien, I think he's trained better horses. He's kind of talked him up for his stallion fee, but I do think there was probably a bigger figure in his locker there that we haven't quite seen. As Stylish, I think Kip Rios is still an outstanding stayer. He's a Group 1 winning most horse that O'Brien's ever trained, and he just keeps. He's just very like all good intelligent stayers. He's just very clever. Yates had it in his locker. Stradivarius had it. He just does enough, and that's what keeps great longevity at the top of the level. Is if you're not going overboard and you're not too hard on yourself, and he keeps doing that. He keeps locking 120. Yeah, he's beating the same rivals all the time, but he is beating off kind of okay 3-4-year-olds now as well. Upcomers. I'll be interested to see what Jan Bruegel does next year as a staying type, maybe Illinois as well. But yeah, it's been decent flat season. I think Rafe Beckett's yard have gone up in the world massively. Blue Stocking winning the Art was quite special for them. Brave supplementing decision that paid off for them. and Ross O'Ryan is getting better and sad all the time. I mean, he's winning Starlust in the Breeders' Cup Sprint. He's winning ARC. When I was watching, I don't watch a lot of all-weather racing, but yeah, he did catch the eye immediately around, your likes of Wolverhamptons and Southalls, your kind of cold, dank, not to 60 Thursday nights racing, and it shows that he can still cut at the top level as well by, his progression, and he was ditched by Ammo Racing as well at one point, he's, to come back and have the fortitude to do that and win some top class races with not obvious chances. Starlust was a 34-1 shot. Blue Stocking was always in the right position. They are fairly handy in the market, but it was certainly no sure thing about 5-6-1 mark. So he's winning big races and getting it tactically spot on as well. So survived the American stewards inquiry as well with the phone, which is something maybe Britain should come into with our stewarding at times. So, some of the decisions that are made there seem to be kind of deferred for days. Cesarewitz was a bit of a farce, wasn't it? Coming back then with the young amateur getting a ban, but the result kind of standing and then flipping on the Tuesday when everyone knew it was going to change. But the punters didn't get paid out, even though the Connections win the race but don't get the trophy on the day. So there's that kind of bizarre kind of whip rule loophole in a way that's there in the rule book. There's still some teething issues with that for sure. But yeah, it was decent overall. I think Rafe Beckett's going to get more ammunition. I think the Goslings were largely disappointing this year. I thought there was a lot of they don't have the firepower, don't have the horse flesh, but there was a lot of bizarre placing decisions throughout the season. Audience, for instance, why is he running in a 6 furlong champion sprint and bottomless ground where he likes quick ground when there was a Breeders' Cup mile there for the taking?
Yeah.
Emily Upjohn maybe should have gone for the filly and turf, would have won that easily without a clear run in the Breeders' Cup. Stuff like that was kind of just going wrong for them pretty much all season. The early 3-year-old placing was a bit odd, but they still got the odd kind of group one as well. A Friendly Soul came to light as well in the second half of the season. So yeah, there's plenty to take on. And there's a lot of kind of O'Brien juveniles that should train on really into 3, and Godolphin picked up towards the end at Newmarket with some of their own. So yeah, and the two kind of big yards seem well stocked for the future. And Ammo Racing were spending a lot of money in the sales. I mean, there's life there, and hopefully that kind of transfers into the track as well from the sales ring.
Yeah, absolutely. But we are basically kind of putting the flat racing season in the rearview mirror. We are focusing this year on the jumps as always. Callum, just before we kind of start in with the questions, I want to have a wee tribute to the great Alistair Down, who obviously sadly passed away last week. Tremendous figure in the kind of broadcasting side of horse racing. Probably one of the very few voices you kind of think of when you think of horse racing, especially like you and I are kind of similar age. You've obviously got McCririck, you've got the likes of like Derek Thompson. Alistair Down would fit that bill. Met him a couple of times when I was at Cheltenham. Very, very nice man. Probably just loves his racing. Even when he left Channel 4, you would see him pop up in like things like previews and stuff. And just a knowledgeable man, brilliant for horse racing, and just a really, really sad loss.
Yeah, I kind of more as a writer, kind of in a broadcaster, but yeah. He's a reliable anchor, and he just loved Cheltenham. He loved everything that encapsulated jump racing. He just lived and breathed it, and he's the type of passionate figure that the sport really needs at the moment right now. So yeah, his passing is really sad. Fitting at the press room was named after him.
Great, you got to see that as well.
Yeah, you need to see that, and he's had a very tough time with the death of his daughter. That really did hit him hard in such awful circumstances, and never really recovered from it. But yeah, I mean, the press pack can be pretty ferocious business sometimes, but there is a lot of respect for rival publications and what they do, and and he's kind of part of that kind of really old cohort that managed to find time for people, and was honest about things, and would give anybody really a very good education about things and words of advice and wisdom. But he'd also tell a wonderful story about things. And I got into jump racing much later than the flat. I mean, it was only in it for betting purposes, really. So, I mean, I'd only watched the Grand National till I was about 18, and I watched kind of Royal Ascot and big flat festivals for when I was 18, 20, and bet on it and bet on it quite successfully. And I mean, Cheltenham was the second. 2015, probably my second most significant Cheltenham Festival of interest, where I was really getting into it and involved in it, and maybe looking at racing more as day to day rather than a kind of festival thing. From Coney, I backed Coney Green win the Gold Cup, and he won it as a novice, and was kind of jumping out in front. And it was at university at the time, second year. It was the first year when it was back at the old now University of West of Scotland, the Ayr campus. The first year there, early Friday finish, dash up the road to the Market Inn to watch the Gold Cup specifically, and then get the train back. It's like Coney Green, and it was just feeling it going. Him jumping from the front and keep going. And the following morning, by chance, really, not much to do, picked up the Racing Post, read his report on it, and it was just sensational. It encapsulated every thought that I was going through when he was going. It's like a novice. I wasn't really aware of the backstory of it, and the Bradstocks were obviously, they had health problems. They were really the plucky challenge of taking on this establishment and national hunt in their blood. Really old fashioned kind of proper grassroots. It was a win for the grassroots, a win for novices. It was a win for the dreamers, and that's exactly and so the roar, the expectation when he was going down the hill and still, jumping like a buck up top and going. You're thinking that your senses were going. He can gradually do this. They were heightening, and he managed to managed to encapsulate that feeling of. And that's because what he feels all the time is that, at the hill when the race develops at Cheltenham, it is such an exciting thrill. Even if you're kind of watching, if you don't have a vested interest in it, but that was it was sometimes words can still be really, really powerful and reminiscent. And that report, that'll be 10 years. Next festival would be that report when the Bradstocks won the Gold Cup. Probably the last kind of genuine kind of fairy tale story related to the Gold Cup, when a novice winning it for the first time in donkey's years, really, an unfashionable small yard winning it, doing the ultimate thing in jumps racing, and it was a remarkable performance as well from a really remarkable gutsy horse that refused to quit, and it was just captured brilliantly. So just that piece of writing, it still sticks in my mind.
Yeah, no, definitely. It is a very, very brilliant individual for the horse racing game, and very sad that he is now no longer with us. Callum, it wasn't any sort of traditional kind of jump season summer where we just thought, right, Cheltenham's round the corner again, nothing's really going to change. But this was very different. We had a lot of changes, and we did open the floor up to some questions, and this was kind of one of the main ones we got. What are your biggest takeaway from the festival changes? Now, I'm not going to read into every single one. I'm just going to say kind of straighten them out, and then we'll see what the biggest thoughts are. Just in terms of the races, so obviously the Grade 1 Turners Novices Chase will be replaced by a Grade 2 Novice Handicap over the same distance. Note I haven't seen whether it's a nod to 145. I know the National Hunt Chase will become a Novice Handicap with a limit of 145, but professional jockeys are now going to ride in that. The cross country will go to a handicap. The Mayor's Novice will remove the penalty structure, so will be off level weights. For Temps qualifiers now, a winner is guaranteed a run. Horses must run for 4 times in chases and 5 in hurdles to be eligible for non-novice handicap races. And obviously the prize money over the 4 days will increase by 115,000, which will make it 4.93 million next year. In terms of race scores, the ticket prices will be frozen. There will be obviously improvements to the car park. There'll be a new park and ride system. There's obviously better like eateries. There's better kind of like experience in terms of kind of food and drink and beverage and things like that. There's obviously a lot of changes, Callum. What do you think, obviously from the kind of outside looking in, what is the kind of big takeaways from the kind of changes for you?
I'll try and take the positives out of it first. The scheduling is a little bit different, and it's better for a 7 race card, having the feature as a 5th race.
Yeah,
I think changing that around was good, because I think, I mean, the feature at the fourth, you kind of, particularly after the Gold Cup, a hunter's chase and then a handicap hurdle and then the mare's chase. I mean, it's kind of who cares a little bit after the main event a little bit. So, I mean, having that then later, it's a greater build-up. So I think that was a positive. The Jockey Club have correctly identified that people, racegoers aren't really getting as much value for money as they can. So freezing stuff, it's a hard economic climate. I mean, you can't really cut the price of kind of beer and things like that and food. Rail travel, hotel, it's basic supply and demand, and they're just going to charge more around that week because things are on that week. It's as simple as that. So freezing stuff like that helps. Improving the car park facilities is a big help because it's been soft ground the last twice and there's been problems there. But they just realise that attendance is down by 11% this year. Friday after the Gold Cup day was pretty flat by all accounts. So they're at least acknowledging that and trying to do something about it, which should help racegoers over the 4 days. So they should, at least if you're a paying customer that goes every year, at least they're acknowledging that there's an issue there and we're trying to sort it. And you just have to trust them to get that right when the time comes. As for the actual changes, I just think it's an acknowledgement of the horse population as it is. It's with it. I don't think there's much rhyme and reason to most of them. I think it's kind of, we need to do something here. Let's press the panic button and tweak things. The removal of the turners is novice handicap. I mean, people think it's changed and they put in. Well, don't know what that was. People think that's changed and I think that's. I mean, there's the exact same race that's in Sandown in Imperial Cup Day. That race get moved when it was.
Will that get moved? Well, that's what I was thinking. Will that just get cut and moved back? Because that's why they obviously cut that from Cheltenham to then move it to Sandown, and now that if it is a nod to 145, they're just going to essentially going to be the same race.
Well, that's the problem. That's it. I mean, and this is kind of thing where not a lot of people have sympathy with the O'Learys, but you can have that kind of race anyway on the calendar at any time. I mean, if Cheltenham Festival is meant to elevate it, there's nothing kind of out of the ordinary there. I mean, in terms of, is Willie Mullins really going to kind of hold one back to get into this? That race was established. I mean, Applotard won it, for instance, off 145. I mean, it was an established way of being used, and now you're bringing that back. And the tunnels was maybe going up in stature a little bit. I mean, Willie Mullins quite liked it as a Gold Cup. It was becoming the kind of fashionable option, the 2.5 over the.
And you've seen as well, obviously, like the impact the Brown Advisory has had on certain horses. Just off the top of my head, Top of the Game, Monkfish, like these horses are not fulfilling their potential after running in that race. Was there not maybe a possibility of maybe what they did with the race at the Dublin Racing Festival, how they moved it? I think it was 3 mile hurdle originally. They moved it back to 2.6. Could they have done something like that? Is it because it's clearly having an impact on horses kind of training on when they get into open company, that race?
Well, it's kind of a recent trend. I mean, like Monkfish was when it was it was quick ground and he's probably tweaked something winning it, and he won it when he looked like an untoward what he was hanging about. He still won it in spite of probably doing something that day. So it's just, I think it's a quick turning nature of the track over 3 miles for novices when it's in quick ground that kind of slightly puts the frighteners on people a bit. But I think that's just more of a recent trend than anything. I mean, certain races will produce. I mean, at the moment, I mean, I think the Ballon work is sometimes pretty underwhelming with just 8-13 shots, and I think the problem is that the tunnels was kind of solving itself out a little bit there, and now the Gallica's kind of the kind of. See, the kind of the cop-out race where we'll just send the best novice here. And we've got the other ones. The extra run for a handicap means pretty little to me. I mean, it's just another kind of way to kind of
stop a state man.
Stop state man, maybe stop an Irish kind of thing. And I think you're forcing them to run in the hurdles races at least. But I mean, we'll just go to other races and other handicaps that are exactly the same with similar money. I don't really think that's going to change a great deal. Probably makes it slightly harder for the Irish to come over a little bit. the penalty structure is still there in the Mayor's Chase. It's not there for Mayor's Novices Hurdle. I mean, why is it different for that? I don't really understand it. See, I mean, there's tinkering around the edges. I'm not really sure how it's going to pan out. Nobody will. But I mean, I think for punters, again, I mean, people bet on Cheltenham 2025 right after 2024 finishes. That's moving the goalposts early doors.
Well,
I mean,
I'll give you an example. The day you know, I do my patent the day after Cheltenham, Ballyburn for the Turners was on it, and it's now not a void bet. The Ballyburn side of it is void. It's just a double. So, like, it's now like, so I mean, it's had an impact on that. I would rather they just close the bet down completely and then we could go again. But that's kind of anti-post punting, isn't it? That's kind of the risk we run. But like, I think everybody thought after last year Ballyburn would go straight over fences. That the argument you can make is that by getting rid of the Turners, the Arkle's going to be more competitive. The Brown Advisory is going to be more competitive. I get that, but I don't think it was a novice chase thing. The National Hunt decision chase decision is nonsense. Like, not changing the race, because I think we both agreed the race was a bit had fallen a bit. But it's the one amateur. The one thing about it was an amateur race, and now you've kind of get rid of that as well. It's just it's made it into a bit of a nonsense race, while it was a nonsense race anyway.
Well, I mean, the thing is, I mean, if you want to compete, you can tweak around the edges if you want. I mean, the horses aren't there to fill these races. It needs cut.
Yeah.
That is the main issue here.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's too many of these kind of races, and that allows power in one yard to dodge things, and vice versa. I mean, and this kind of thing, we talked about Ballyburn. He'd be most likely have ended up in the Turners. I mean, you do have a debate around him all season. You know, he's not 100% made the switch to fences quite yet.
That question will come up.
They're discussing that, but I mean, to me, it just smacks of a right. We'll get the better novices, but I mean, that ITV thing was, the documentary centred around the Turners. It was a good renewal of between Grey Dawning and Ginny's Destiny. It was quite an interesting betting race. It was maybe beginning to find its voice a little bit, maybe at the expense of a Brown Advisory, because a lot of plots were maybe going in like the Kim Muir. I know the way you're thinking, Corbett's Cross, like that in the National Hunt Chase. So maybe they should have got rid of one of the kind of 3 mile plus races. Maybe tweak that a little bit more. The National Hunt Chase, I mean, it was a 4 mile old fashioned handicap, amateur handicap. You knew exactly what we were going to get. They changed it on a whim because there was a bad renewal one year where they all finished legless and the amateurs got it completely wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And it looked farcical. The race has completely lost its identity. It doesn't know what it is. It's now been used as a kind of stepping stone for classier horses that need a bit more time. And you've got to remember the amateur scale is, I mean, there are amateurs and then there are amateurs. I mean, Patrick Mullins, Derek O'Connor, probably Barry O'Neill are professionals in name. There are some that are actually proper amateurs. So it's skewed in that way a little bit. All in all, I think the change across countries and the handicap is a reasonable one enough. There could have been a penalty structure instead for that, so I understand why they've changed that slightly. The scheduling's good, the acknowledgement value for money is good. The actual changes to the terms of races, I think, will mean probably pretty little. But I do think it's a step that the Jockey Club are acknowledging, so we need to try and make things more competitive. Well, the only way you're going to do it is by cutting some of these races, I'm afraid. I would like the intermediate ones to be. I wouldn't mind the Turners being kept and just made a Grade 2 flat out.
Mm-hmm.
Just make it a Grade 2. And I'd actually have the Gallagher as a Grade 2 as well. I'd demote that. Try and get your championship horses running at championship distances, 2 miles, 3 miles. If they're not good enough, there's a race here for them over 2.5 as a Grade 2. And Aintree, it's owned by the Jockey Club as well. It's got a terrific programme of Grade 1 middle distance races. The Champion Hurdle, I mean, the Aintree Hurdle, it is 2.5 miles. There's a stairs race. there's an old me. There are so many options there to go for middle distance horses that want the intermediate trip. It's not a championship distance. Why is it not a championship distance? Well, I think the Supremes get more clout than a Gallagher. The fact that the name of the race changes every second year to be,
it's now going to be the Turners.
The Champion Chase is always going to be more lucrative than a Ryanair. So is a Gold Cup. So just acknowledge it in the graded structure. So if the horses aren't there, if you think you've got a top notcher running the Gold Cup or the Champion Chase, if you don't, there's an intermediate race for you as a Grade 2. And if it's a Grade 1 horse, you're going to rigidly stick the Grade 1, then he's got to carry a Grade 1 penalty. I think it's dead simple like that. I mean, just demote the race to Grade. It doesn't need to be Grade 1 all the way through. The Guineas Day, Derby Day on the flat, not everything has to be a Grade 1 because it's a Grade 1 or a Group 1 meeting. And then there's other ones. I mean, there's another big Grade 1 race at Fairyhouse as well, over 2.5, right at that Cheltenham time. So they've made some changes, and at least they have acknowledged that they needed to be made. But I don't think they're going to make a great deal of difference.
Right, let's get into some questions. We opened the floor out and got some questions via our Patreon, so thanks to everyone that sent those in. We have some questions for the new jump season. Let's start with the champion hurdle picture. Is Constitution Hill at 11-8 worth backing before he goes to Newcastle? Callum, I think we can all agree the champion hurdle this year, if it turns out to what we hope it is, it could be one of the best renewals we've seen. Constitution Hill was odds against. We obviously haven't seen him since Christmas on a track racing. We saw him obviously before Cheltenham, where I think you knew your view thereabouts. He didn't go. State Man obviously won the champion hurdle. Constitution Hill was apparently working the house down. He's 11-8 with bookmakers. Is that a bet for the champion hurdle before we see him again?
No, I mean, well, it's indicative of pretty much everything in the market at the moment, isn't it? It just isn't. It's not worth the risk. We haven't seen him for 11 months now. It's a long way from here to the area. The bulletins have been reasonably encouraging since. There's going to be some new players on the block by the sounds of it. Willie Mullins was pretty bullish about keeping Lossiemouth to 2 miles, going the champion hurdle route. Can see why. I think she'd be a big player in it. State Man is solid, consistent, and he's nailed on to get there. And you don't know 100% about Ballyburn or Sergino. They could try and come this way. One of them might. Both I would say would be extremely unlikely, but it still could happen. You could have improvers out the woodwork as well, and Mystical Power seem to keep the door open to keep him over hurdles. Might be more of a stayer, Willie Mullins, but and even Brighter Days Ahead of Gordon Elliot. I mean, he all of a sudden opened the door to Hartford maybe being a champion hurdle contender. He's probably looking at that a little bit optimistically because of how Irish Point get close to State Man, and he'd be kind of more seen as a stayer.
Has he ever? I don't think he's ever won the champion hurdle, has he? Gordon Elliot? I don't think so. I know he tried. Apple's Jade was obviously well fancied. She obviously ran bad. I can't think off the top of my head any others that he had. Petit Mouchoir maybe, but like...
I mean, Abacadabra was quite well
fancied. Yeah.
It didn't quite work out. Mick Jazz ran quite well. He's had quite a few places and things like that. Zanahire's placed in it. So, I mean, he does... He just tend to be a bit not quite quick enough for them. And they tend to stay on and be second or third sometimes. So you would have to say that she'd be in that kind of similar bracket. You'd be surprised if she had the speed to win a champion hurdle. But she's classy enough, and the fact that the door's open means she could be a player. So you're already looking at probably a deeper race at Constitution Hill than last year when it fell apart. But he still needs to prove his well-being, and that's enough to justify his price. And I mean, can he shorten dramatically if he wins a fight in fifth? I mean, is Willie Mullins going to send over one of his better horses for that? The only horse I could possibly see him doing it as a sighter is maybe a Mystical Power. Does he have any kind of ordinary Grade 2 horses that he could fling in there? 2 miles, possibly, but I mean, he's just going to be beaten. He's not going to be beating anything. He's going to go off like 1-6 to win a fighting fifth, probably win. Can you really cut him to something like 5-4, 11-10, even money on the back of that, because he's answered a kind of small welfare question? I don't think so. No, I think you just have to kind of wait and see.
Have you had a bet for the champion hurdle yet?
Absolutely not. It's a horrible market at the moment. And the thing is, I mean, Stateman's kind of the one that I think he's probably the least talented of the three.
And he's probably the best each way price, yeah.
He's the one that's going to turn up.
Yeah.
He's the one that you'd bank on the most to turn up. I think Constitution Hill is the right favourite, and what he's achieved and what he's done. But he has to come on the way back. Is he going to be the same horse? He's had wind problems, a few other problems at the Henderson Yard. His start of the season very in and out as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Lossiemouth merits a lot of respect. We'll get £7, not far away. And then you've got saying a Supreme runners up that might come into the equation as well. So it's an interesting little market.
What do you think to do with Lossiemouth though? Because obviously, like Stateman, the plan would be it's probably Morgiana, Christmas, DRF, Cheltenham. Lossiemouth last year obviously were very likely race. They went to Cheltenham just before it was trials day, and then to Cheltenham. I don't think they'll do that this season. I think they'll try and get more race experience into her. Will they go for the Stateman? Will they take Stateman on before Cheltenham?
Remember, they had this. It's a shiny new toy in the division, isn't it?
Yeah.
They did it when Perry passed, and he was readily brushed aside. So you have to think that the kind of a similar kind of thing's going to happen here. There's going to be a more aggressive campaign. She's going to have an extra race probably. She'll have a sighter against Stateman, I'd imagine, some point in the season to kind of see where they're at, and then challenge Constitution Hill, whatever happens. So I think it's only going to really materialise around Christmas, January time. Yeah.
On to the other of the season, which is the Cheltenham Gold Cup. Question here: should Factor File be exactly the same price as Galloping Deschamps, considering one's a two-time champion and the other has only raced over fences 4 times where he's lost 1? It's interesting because I very much, and I don't know whether I'm kind of getting excited already. The early kind of feeling is Denman Cottle, this generation's Denman Cottle star. That's what I am hoping we get here, is these two don't see each other till Cheltenham. They go down different routes. They're hard to split. One's going for history, the other's the up-and-comer, and we get a duel. Is that going to happen?
I think we'll definitely get a Cheltenham duel. I think he's probably short enough in the market, Factor File. I think a lot of kind of, you just pinpoint the leading novice hope for the Gold Cup, and they kind of get well supported early on because they are the excited upcoming thing against old champions. So he needs to go out and still prove it and get to a mark. I mean, another year for Galloping Deschamps. It is harder to go to the well time and time again. That might be factored in slightly, but you can't knock a 2-time Gold Cup winner. Seems to still have enthusiasm for the game. His Punchestown run wasn't too bad, but we kind of know about him a little bit now of what he's like. So being disappointing there isn't overly surprising. In fact, I just think the way the trainer speaks to him, I mean, he mapped out the Brown Advisory very quickly. He didn't waste any time going over hurdles. They rate him smartly. He dealt with the Brown Advisory quite well, even though there was some notable underperformers in behind, but he was swinging out the back. He had the tactical speed to do it. He jumped cleanly. He settled. He looks every stamp a Gold Cup horse that's going to make the step up. I mean, they usually have a bit of stone to find to go up with a good Gold Cup winner. I think Jerry Colombe, had £20 to find. And he did improve his rating, but by a stone it wasn't quite enough. If Factor File finds that level of improvement, he's got an absolute massive chance. And it is pretty hard to look beyond those two at the moment. How he splits them up might be difficult because
I've got a theory here. You want to hear it?
Yeah, is Tremor going to come into the equation?
Maybe, but obviously we heard yesterday fact of file hasn't been entered in the King George, which I don't think he would have went
Surprising.
there. I don't think he would have went there, but I don't think Galloping Deschamps can win a John Durkin. I
No,
don't
he's
think.
not going, is he?
Well,
He's leaving him. He's by the sounds of it, he's leaving him till Christmas, really, to
yeah.
see
So
him.
I think fact of file goes Punches down. I don't think Galloping Deschamps punches down. I don't see the point of it anymore. We know that he's better left-handed. We know he's probably kind of reaching that age where you maybe don't race him. He raced 5 times last season, like, and his best performances were all left-handed. So I think they'll go Christmas, DRF, Cheltenham. Back to file, with Willie having the English Trainer Championship on his mind, does he maybe go to? Does he look at the John Durkin? Does he maybe look at New Year at Tremor, and then does he go right Trials Day, Cotswold Chase? Let's get him round that. See if he. I know he jumped. He jumped well at Cheltenham. He jumps a bit to his right. So do you keep him right-handed and then go left-handed before Cheltenham just to see what where he's at, because he still has to improve. I think it's a good way of splitting them up. Obviously, fact to file, it's more. It'll essentially be 3 kind of schooling sessions, to be honest, most cases. But we know that Galloping Deschamps likes the way that he tracks. I don't think he'll want them to meet before Cheltenham. I think Punches down, Tremor, and then they go to maybe Cheltenham for the Cotswold, and then they go to the Gold Cup.
Oh, I think they might run. I mean, Cotswold Chase is Grade Two. I mean, I don't really see the point in going there for Grade Twos. I mean,
I don't see another. The only other one I thought of was the Winter Million one at Lingfield, but again,
again,
that
that's just not
that's
going to go there, is it?
nah.
It's too attritional, and that's more of a kind of a direct trial where Willie Mullins normally runs trial horses that really need to prove something. I mean, the Energamine was like the Clarence House things, but he did run it as if it was a trial. You know, it was
Yeah.
half-arsed. It was that kind of way, and then we'll pick him up for the big gate. So I would be alarmed if he ran there, because I would think maybe he's had a small setback and he wants a quick run into him or something like that. But the different owners, different riders. I can see them meeting quite regularly this season. I mean, they could just go the exact same route. Not afraid to do it. Done it before, and he's got so many, and
Mm-hmm.
their owners. I mean, like, I like the way you're thinking Corbett's Cross, things like that. I mean, Corbett's Cross is already doing the early season work, isn't he? He's going to go Betfair Chase after having a lifeless spin earlier on, I think, at Wexford. So he's got, and Iron Maximus is JP's national horse, and there's 4 of them there. So he's got so many, they'll all just split up. And I think there's got to be a likelihood that they'll meet in the Savills, or they'll meet in the Irish Gold Cup, and they might even run them both at that race, because I mean, if it's that prep veterinary, and just make it kind of best horse kind of wins a little bit, and they could probably, it might be 2-1, 1-1, 2-1 or something like that. But I mean, you seem like, I mean, fast or slow, I mean, he's been ruled at the King George, but they've been at pains to try and avoid Galloping. So you can't. I mean, the programme's kind of at Grade 1 level, at that level, it's pretty much set in stone.
I thought he would have relished a King George. I thought that would have been like we were going to do
Yes,
that for the
well,
season. I honestly thought he would have been absolutely nailed on for that. Like absolutely suit him to the hill. But for some one reason or another, is that fitness? Is that maybe we won't see him in a John Durkin? And again, he's got the right to go. Jerry Colom, I thought was quite flat. We don't know. Grey Dawning's obviously the one that we're keen to see. I think Betfair Chase probably is suiting him. You've got a few kind of improvers here who might be able to make some sort of step up and challenge for place money. Spillane's Tower, Monty Star, like Grange Clare West, Jenny's Destiny. They're probably not good enough, but like the best, if it does turn into a duel, they're probably challenging for third at best. And you can see, like you can see that you can see horses kind of maybe kicking on and challenging to be up there and kind of picking up these kind of grade 2s before Cheltenham, but I generally think it's hard to see past the top 2 in the betting at the moment.
Well, I mean, at the moment it is. But, you know, it can easily change. I mean, last year at the Champion Chase, when you really had Captain Guinness down as winning it, it fell apart. and he won it.
To do.
So, I mean, this happens in top races. I mean, look Stairs Hurdle, for instance, in a T who seem to be to win it again. It looks like that at the moment. Now, what if he doesn't go? If he misses it for some reason, it opens it up massively. So, I mean, the horses that try to come back into, horses that you'd maybe dismissed before. I mean, as Sharp Highland says, Hewitt's better than ever. He's going to miss a King George because of this ban. Probably he'll go Betfair Chase, and then he might come back fresh and want a decent ground Cheltenham. He could have a go at it. And if it's genuine spring ground, that maybe ask a different question of Galloping the Shot because he's outstaying them in bottomless.
Yeah.
Would it tempt others to come into the equation? Hoyson maybe ran the wrong race last year. He might come back, have a go at it. He had a kind of very soft run in the Old Roan that suggested that he could maybe stay and settle a little bit. It's a big leap, it's a big faith, but if things start going against favourites and things start going in their favour and they show a little bit of their best form again, all of a sudden this wide chasm between the top two in the market and the rest can narrow significantly. So it's just a starting point at the moment. It's very hard to look past a Galloping Deschamps or a Factor File. You can see the images of them kind of going hammer and tong up the hill, like kind of Native River Might Bite did, like Denman and Cato Star back in the day. But it's a long, long, long way.
To
get there.
Yeah. Right. One market that I think again, and I've just said it there. I get very excited with the Champion Chase every season, and it turns into we don't get the jewel we want. This year might be a bit different because looking at the market, one of the questions here is John Bond the right favourite for the Champion Chase? Looking at the market just now, and again, I'm keen to get your thoughts on this. John Bond's 3-1 favourite. El Fabiolo and Gaelic Warrior 4s. Energamine coming back, looking for a 3-time. I don't think a horse has won the race 3 times since 1980 or something like that. So he's obviously got a big interest if he's back to full fitness. Is John Bond better than those 3, and should he be favourite in the market?
I don't think he's better, but at the moment he's got less to prove, and that's why he's favourite. So he's a right favourite, but you wouldn't want to rush to back him in that sense because he missed Cheltenham last year and he flopped in the Arkle at the festival. It's come back running, and the Schlure will be interesting. That seems to be the intended target. But he's very good at Sandown, but he's done that last twice, hasn't he? It's no kind of surprise there. Aintree was good. So yeah, I mean, at least he's proven he's come back. He can't handle Cheltenham. He's been a bit off it in the festival though. I mean, you can envisage a scenario where he goes off odds on it. It seems to fall in his lap and he misfires or something like that. But so he made a mistake around Cheltenham when he was second, which was a bit of a surprise. But he did kind of refine his equilibrium and did everything but win it that day. But 2-mile chasers at that speed, when something goes wrong, they're pretty hard. It's pretty hard to recover. He'll probably come up against Edelson in the Schlure, and that'll put his jumping under pressure. I know Edelson's pretty exposed now, but he's quick from the front, and he was an important tactical angle in the Champion Chase because he burnt off El Fabiolo, got him at his comfort zone, and he did his backing, and it was Cuttons for the favourite there. I mean, Captain Guinness, he's limited, but he's classier than Edwardstone and could go the pace. So it's a real sharp test. The thing is with John Bond is he's just been mooted. All of these have been mooted for a Ryanair as well. They're all in that market. They're all prominent for that. So are they that quick?
What are the chances of all 3 Willie Mullins horses turning up in this race? I would say it's less than 0.
Yeah, non-existent. The way he was talking in his initial statement to me, I think there's a good chance that he's seen El Fabiolo by after Christmas and maybe in a Ryanair on a bit of a recovery mission because I think he needs a bit of time to see it. If you're pigeonholing Gaelic Warrior, which is a dangerous thing to do because he seems to be able to do it all, he could be an Allaho at that level of kind of from the front, soft ground, whack them, bang, bang, bang. Can't live with me if he's in a routine like he was in the Arkle. He looked pretty unstoppable that
Any
day.
chance he goes for a King George?
Yeah, I think there's a squeak of a chance. There. And then you've got the Energamine him coming back, and he's had a kind of clear run of it coming back. It didn't seem to be too serious last year what happened, but he just couldn't quite. It wasn't really worth the risk a little bit. He's definitely a big player. He got him trip, versatile, won it before. if it was at gunpoint out of a bet, I would probably back him. It's because he's a bit bigger and a bit more proven, and he's got a comeback trail a little bit, but it certainly seems to not be beyond him, because he was quite lightly raced earlier in his career, wasn't he? He wasn't really seen too much, so maybe a bit more kind of tactically versatile than the others. So it's an interesting little market at the moment.
I think we need to have a look at it, because the way it's kind of operated the past few years, Captain Guinness has won it. You've had some pretty average horses win this race, like obviously Politologue won it as well the Defi year. Marine National, I know he's 12 to 1. We'll maybe see him on Sunday. I think I don't know, there's something about Marine National creeping out to me here that he could improve.
Well, I mean, last season was a write-off, wasn't it? But he's won a Supreme, so he's better ground, and if it is better ground, he definitely has the speed for it. It's just it's just soundness and well-being. Is he all there? That'd have to be taken massively in trust if he proves that he is back. I think he's coming out on Sunday, by all means, all intents and purposes. But the fact that his novice campaign's going badly wrong, he'd need to get up to speed ratings wise pretty sharply, so to enter the conversation. But he's one that can come out the woodwork like quite a lot of horses at this time and stake a claim and really shake up things. So I mean, I hope he does. I mean, it would enliven the market greatly.
Right, we thought we would maybe know this answer by now, but we're going to just ask it anyway. Where will Ballyburn run at the 2025 Cheltenham Festival? We didn't know until a week before last year. I think we'll probably know more this year. Right, I think it's 90-10 that he goes fences.
Yeah, 95% certain, isn't it?
Do you think Willie's going to go the 3 mile route when he's got a horse that we'll maybe touch on later? I think he's very bullish about that horse, where he looks to be well suited to an Arkle right now, doesn't he? Like, if you'd said to me last year, where will Ballyburn run, I would have said the Turners. I think the Turners would have been tailor-made for him. Now that option's gone, I think Arkle. I think he has to go Arkle.
The market tells you that it seems to be Arkle, doesn't it? I mean, all prevailing logic seems to be Arkle. There was clamour for him to run in the Supreme, understandably so. He would have probably won that anyway. I mean, he could easily go back and trip. He could easily go up and trip. It depends. They view him as a genuine Gold Cup horse. It doesn't matter. I mean, Gaelic Warrior won the Arkle last year, and he's a stayer as well. I mean, I think horses that are in that bracket can do it all pretty much dictate. I mean, you get it reasonably watered anyway the first day, so it's going to be, you can guarantee ground. He's got the speed. He's definitely got the physique to make it into fences quickly. Yeah, I think he's just going to start on like 2 miles and stay there until he gets beat. Very much like Appreciate It kind of back in the day, where he will go up and trip eventually. He's just going to stick to what he knows and it'll win. It's 95% he'll go over fences, and I think it's 85% certain it'll be the Arkle. But this is Willie Mullins, and he can do different things, and it's just so dangerous to rule out anything. And it is dangerous to rule out anything because of the short prices you're taking 4 months out. 74 for Arkle. I mean, Firefox has already come out and looked pretty good. He'll probably have to go down that way.
But in the pocket, put in a really good.
In the pocket is get some really high class back form, and he's had one very good run and has proven that he's thereabouts. So yeah, I mean, Sergino could go this way as well on the hurdles. So I mean, there are other options there. He'll have others in his own yard as well, I'm pretty sure. Slade Steele is a good horse. He could maybe the Arkle route might not be quick enough, but fences will help him in that regard.
Henry's track record with improving horses from hurdles to fences is second to none.
Yeah, so he'd be another that you'd probably have mapped out more of a Turners type at that point. But that race is gone, so you've got to think about it unless you're holding him back as a handicap for all season, which would be ridiculous. But yeah, I mean, you'd have to be reasonably confident that Ballyburn would go Arkle, but 2 to 174 is just not for me.
Speaking of Willie Mullins, what was the biggest takeaway from Willie Mullins' stable tour?
I just love the way he talks about Marswood and Lossiemouth.
Yeah.
To win to win kind of Triumph Hurdle race with such contrasting types is just remarkable. You know, one is a champion hurdler down the line, one is a Gold Cup horse down the line. You know, they start their career with different high-profile owners. Same point as the same point as a 4-year-old. You know, if they race till they're 8, 9, you know, I mean, they could be the top of their respective divisions and start at the same point. So it's a triumph for the triumph, because it took him a while to get a handle on that race, but he's produced some really wicked winners of it recent times. So that's an ominous sign for him, because the sourcing of horses and getting them out quickly as well and maintaining them has been nothing short of magnificent so far. So yeah, Lossiemouth, because I hope they do stick to Mill and don't soften the mare's hurdle route. But even if she does, she might have against Brightley's ahead, which might be a decent clash, and people are already kind of potentially excited about that. But I think she's just very, very interesting in a division that did need somebody like that to come into it to spark it up a little bit. And he just waxes lyrical about Masborough as if he's very much like he did with Factify last year, I think.
Well, that was what I was going to say. So, like, I remember I said this to you. I wrote on a piece I did a couple of weeks ago that Masborough is clearly a future prospect. We see that, but I thought, do they give him another year over hurdles, give him more experience, then go fences at 6? But then you see the way he talks about him in the stable tour, and you think, why waste a year? Get him over fences. Like, I've covered him for the Stairs Hurdle. One of my big bets for the early stage was Masborough for the Brown Advisory, so I'm not disappointed what he does. I just had this thing in my head he might go Stairs, because the Stairs, apart from Tia Hooper, looks pretty weak. Do you give him another year and then you go over fences? But you see the way he's bullish about him, and you think he thinks the world of him. Factify written all over it.
He does, and you know, the template's there for him. I mean, he's going to be lightly raced. He's going to be allowed to his frame. You might probably see him December, January time if you're lucky. You might only see him twice this season. You know, because what he did with Lossiemouth was so effective, and it's hard for 4-year-olds into 5, and he's acknowledged that in his comments. That this horse is going to be very much one for the future. So even what he does this year might not matter greatly. It's kind of maybe what he does is 6, 7, 8. So yeah, he's just a very exciting horse. But I mean, I watched back the triumph for Lossiemouth winning it. You know, ferociously keen, very small, compact, athletic, pacey, and then you watch Masborough win the same race, and it's like this big, massive chaser, huge, scopy, massive stride, treating hurdles with easy contempt, and that was only his second run of his life as well.
Mm-hmm.
You know, to do that, it was quite astonishing. Okay, Sergino wasn't there, and it might not have been the strongest runner in the world, but he's beaten kind of solid yardstick in Kyrgyzstan and horses like that. Be sceptical about him this season a little bit. I think 4-5 is obviously going to be difficult, and the Triumph form is largely untested. It's quite the jump, but yeah, he is an exciting horse for the future. And just the way Mullins talks about him and his resourcefulness in recruiting these kind of types and winning the same races with speedsters and stairs, is a real powerful thing for the future. So I'm just really interested to see how the trajectory of their careers span out from both of these being respective Triumph winners to what they do. I mean, Lossiemouth's already won a mare's hurdle, and she looks high class. So interested to see if Masborough can kind of emulate that at a totally different sphere.
Yeah, I think Masborough just the way he just was bullish about it as well. Maybe as well, like the way he's kind of that isn't set in stone yet. But Jade de Gruchy going over hurdles, Kyrgyz over fences. I thought it would be the opposite. Like I really think Kyrgyz over 2.5 over hurdles. I think that might bring out the best of her. She's way too keen. You might see her progress, but whether the fences might do that, I don't know. But yeah, he's very bullish in Masborough. Next question, was the punishment for Shark Hanlon's dead horse incident excessive?
I think in hindsight now they've kind of changed it back a little bit, so it's been clipped in. I think it's just a few months now.
6
really.
Months, yeah.
It's been cut back, I think, maybe a little even further. So I think it just seemed a tarpaulin that's blown off, and that's it. And it's been seen on social media, and there's been another few kind of things. Maybe just a slight overreaction to kind of things. I think if you're within the industry, you wouldn't be too perturbed by it greatly. But it's optics. Racing, it's social license responsibility, and it doesn't look good, and that's probably why it's been slightly excessive. I thought it was slightly harsh, but you can see why they do it when the debate about social license is so fierce as it is.
Mm-hmm. Next question. This is you on the spot here, by the way. This is you. I'm going to give you this floor. Can Callum give a horse to follow from the following yards? Lucinda Russell, Greenhall and Guerrero, Harry Derham, and Ollie Murphy. You're on the spot.
All right. Well, I was at Ayr last Monday. Walking on a Dream was good for Russell as a kind of novice hurdler to follow, I would think. Beaten half length by Country Mile. Country Mile was Dance Skelton was at 1-3 favourite, and that won by. Well, it won by half a length, but it's obviously much better than that because it was a falsely run race and did everything wrong and still pulled out the fire and won going away. And Harry Skelton was not really panicking as many 1-3 backers in the ring would. Watching it, he's going to basically bulldoze every hurdle, but he was made to work by a kind of very small, kind of reliable Walking in a Dream, but it was very professional hurdle debut. Certainly races to be won with that 5-year-old. He was running up half length second. I think a half length second to horse like Country Mile might read really good form down the line for the rest of the season. So that's one of many Russells to know. I mean, anyone that's watched this before would know I rate Meyertown massively and waiting for him to come out. He's been pulled out 3 times. They need soft ground for him. That's the kind of thing. He had a weak setback before he was going to run in the Grade 1 at Aintree, the Sefton hurdle there, which I think would have been a big player in. It's a race that the Russells target really well. I think Meyertown over fences can be really good. It's described as a kind of wee mini Ahoy Senior, and it's the same ownership. So long way to go to match him, if at all. But I think that merits respect. The Greenhill Yard, Greenhill Guerrero. I think Jaguar would be pretty good. He's come out and won already off a low weight, 118. GP McManus owns. I think he's the kind of type that's going to improve. I mean, he could get to a mark of kind of 135, 140 Cheltenham Festival kind of levels into those one handicaps eventually that we get to. There's quite a few like that because, I mean, maybe one part of the Cheltenham change is that being a novice handicap, I mean, a lot more beginners' chases are turned into novice handicaps from the start. So it kind of allows them to kind of get those runs in early for bigger spring targets that might do. So I think Jaguar could do well towards the end of the spring. Harry Derham Yard, Gibby 5 would be an obvious one, and he beat Bottle of Secret this time out. The next Gibby 5 juvenile hurdler is Vianney. It's privately bought from Johnny Murty Yard, just like Give Me 5 was to go juvenile hurdling from the Aga Khan. And this is the exact kind of same type. So he seems to be likely, Harry Derham's gone on record saying he rates him quite highly. So the Give Me 5 won at Adonis last year, went to Aintree and ran quite well as well. So he could be that kind of type of juvenile horse. Vianney down the line. So he's one to keep a note probably in springtime. And Ollie Murphy, I like Booster Bob as a novice chaser. He's already come out and won. He's got a good win rate. And I really liked the look of him on his bumper debut when he won at Ayr. He said, novice hurdle didn't quite go to plan. He had the ceiling, but he still won like 3 races. He's got off the mark over fences where he was really weak in the market. It looked like he needed the run, like a lot of Ollie Murphy's first time out have needed this season. He still won regardless. And he's in a decent little race at Aintree on Saturday. He's about 5-2, 3-1. And I'd expect him to win. And I think he might be tried and graded company down the season. So yeah, Booster Bob for the Murphy yard. So there are a few from those yards that you can look at.
Well covered, yeah, absolutely. Let's move into another question. Who have been your early eye catchers so far this season? I've got 2, and then obviously I'll give the floor to you. I really liked the performance on Sunday of Bill Joyce, who, if you remember, went off. I think he went off about 6-1 for the bumper.
Yeah, it was a mental move.
Ran
40s
no
into
race.
7s or something.
Yeah, ran no race at all. But it came out first time, won over hurdles over 2 mile 4. Looked very good. Travelled quite strong into the race. I just think again, John Joe's kind of been quite off the boil the past 4 or 5 years. Is this maybe a good one that he might have for the future? Could be one for kind of graded novice hurdles this season in Britain. The other one I really liked, and again, I haven't been impressed with Nichols' horses so far this season, but one I really liked was Quebecois. Beat a horse of the Skelton team who I think fell at the first de Persian War, forget the name of it. He looked very good, maybe a bit keen, but jumped really well. Won for obviously the McNeil family. He's already mentioned Newbury for that race in December. Maybe he's one for maybe his Charlo horse this year. Maybe there's a couple more, but I really so far I think Quebecois and Bill Joyce have been really good in novice hurdles in the pocket novice chase. I think we'll get to him later on, but I think he's a super prospect over fences this year.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. Quebecois, he was one of mine. Six that really caught my eye. I think he's an Albert Bartlett horse all over. He's muted Cheltenham. I think he might be a bit slow for a Cheltenham, even then. Chepstow good ground. He did quite well in that same weekend. I mean, the new line of the Skeltons was impressive.
Yeah.
20-1 now for the Supreme. The time was better than some as well. And Skelton's kind of waxed lyrical about him and Country Miles at Ayr. He only won by half a length in Ayr, and you think, oh, that's pretty on reform. But I mean, they were bullish. The connections were strong. He did everything wrong. Could only improve massively for that. Upton grade and a better race for truer gallop as well. I think you'll see that horse in a better light. The fact he still pulled out the fire from what I think is a decent enough Lucinda Russell horse. Mm-hmm. Connections were there, and there was a lot of connections that day in Dan Skelton. It's a 300-mile kind of journey to get there. And, he had a lot of fancied horses, and I was there at the start of the day and thinking that he's at least going to walk away with a treble here. You just see something, just an intent there. He was the ring and about, and I mean, there was a kind of, you can see why he's kind of stolen a match early on in the season, and there is a kind of, definitely was an early sign of intent. Country Miles a good horse, so it's a new line. I quite like Intent's approach.
Yeah,
he won the kind of the staying kind of contest at Cheltenham's October meeting, probably because I actually backed him, and they've really the only jump bet that I've had so far privately. But it's just like when he really targets like the Streets of Doyens and this and things like that, and I think the Cromwell horse wasn't one of his top notchers, for instance. And you just think, horses for courses, and this is John McConnell's probably best novice hurdler, definitely best staying novice hurdler. He needs good ground. He's taking advantage of a good early season opportunity. If he gets that ground in a Bartlett or something, you can see him maybe. It's very hard to make a win case for him, but you can see him going off like an 18-20-1 shot and finishing second or third, like Streets of Doyen did and Bardenstown Lad did. So I mean, that's the kind of early sighting trends that you want to see as a punter at the early start of the season when you've not got really a lot to go on. Like what yard, what ownership are going for the same races over and over again and winning them pretty regularly. So that must be a good pointer for him. I think he's reasonably good. And the other ones at that October meeting were pretty decent. Valgrand, I know he's been absolutely whacked by the handicapper, but he did win impressively for Skelton.
What is it? 156 in this year?
Yeah, I think he might just be 150. He got a massive hike for it, which again is kind of it's another problem with the kind of the structure of our races, and it's too kind of. Well, we graded a race like that. I mean, you've kind of whacked it. I mean, the favourite there was well fancied odds on. It did disappoint and Ran's one as maybe one race too many. Gail Marler of the Keatley yard, and I think the handicapper may have read that she ran to her mark, which was probably inflated anyway, and then you've maybe inflated this guy a bit too much as well. So Potter's Charm was good for the Twist and Davis team as well. I thought he was pretty straightforward. He was confidently found in the market. He's beaten maybe Gordon Elliott's 8th best novice hurdler there, but I mean he targets those kind of like 130 horses at that kind of thing. So and he was a bit of a stayer. So think that horse has got a chance of being maybe like 140ish and maybe plundering some good graded stuff. So it's also a yard that tend to go well at that stage of the year as well. So yeah, there's a decent kind of few things to note going forward, and we'll see if that they can transfer that form into the November meeting, which is going to be a little bit stronger again, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's get into other side of the IC, Gordon Elliot. Who do you think is Gordon Elliott's best bumper horse going novice hurdling this season?
I think it's probably Romeo Coolio. I thought he was good at Down Royal. I know he's 2013 and did it entitled to do what he did to do, but I think he's an out-and-out 2-miler. I think he was identified as probably their best bumper horse early on. I think he's had maybe a couple of niggly setbacks. He didn't get a clear run at him. He was 18-1 for the champion bumper. He breezed into it stylistically and get outstayed in that ground by proper 2.5 miler and Yasmin DeVoe and stablemate Yalan Dodoris, who's got to be high rank as well, but it's probably their 2.5 miler.
Yeah.
And maybe like the likes of a Yellow Clay and other things, or maybe he's 3 miler at the moment. But you can only go on what you see at the moment, and at the moment it'd be Romeo Coolio.
Yeah, I like the Yellow Clay. Elliot still seems to be saying he maybe be a 2-miler. Whether that's he's waiting on it, if it's like a bog, then he might go Supreme. I've covered him for the Supreme, but to be honest, I don't know where he could go. You've brought up Martin Pipe as a potential, because that's what they did last year with Better Days Ahead. It was the same race.
Well, I mean, Better Days Ahead. I mean, he's normally won by that kind of. I mean, look at the race of that kind of. It's that kind of nature of horse that goes away. He might take in Navin. If he takes in Navin, for instance, then I would be really interested in the Martin Pipe, because he's just running him again to get a mark. So it gives you that option. So you can see him running again. You can see him running that Nathaniel Lacey. Maybe you might have 4 runs by January, for instance, and then like a small run at the DRF. And that gets you into a Martin Pipe at graded level. So if he looks to get experience into him quite a lot, make him battle hardened, then you're looking at kind of, you're in the Bartlett territory, you'd be in Martin Pipe territory. You know, Hall Games, I think, won that kind of race to start his career. You know, I think you're looking at that kind of type of horse rather than a kind of a flashy 2-miler that will go grade 1. You know, he's got that with the other one, Romeo Coolio. I think probably go to the Royal Bond next. He's going to be your kind of the way. I think that's why Gordon Elliott. I think that's probably why Romeo Coolio is quite prominent in the Supreme market. I think you're pretty nailed on. He'll go there already. You know, you don't see as many curveballs with him as you would with Mullins, because he's got less of them to throw, obviously. But I just think he's more of a creature of habit, and you can just kind of see when you looked at the Roll of Honour at that race, the Yellow Clade one, you can see I can kind of see where this horse is going. You know,
yeah.
And that's a good thing with Down Royal, is he always wins it, targets it quite well, horses, and you can see the obvious type develop from a pretty long way out. I would think I would have him in my mind for Martin Pipe at the moment, but it's a long way to go yet.
Yeah. And back to Willie Mullins. At this point, again, this will change. This will be probably we'll revisit this the week before Cheltenham and see how wrong we've got it. What is Willie Mullins' number 1 horse for the Supreme, the 2 Mile 5, which is now known as the Turners, and the Albert Bartlett? What do you think his number 1 is at this point?
I think Yasmin DeVoe was probably Turner's bound. You would think, you know, I mean, the way he kind of won the champion bumper, you'd think that would be kind of his main port of call. The market says Salvador Monday would be the one Supreme at the moment, you know, with 20s into 10s. And in Redemption Day's not far behind. I mean, I can see why they're there. They're obvious starting points, but I don't think they're more than that. I mean, LIT Tom was a second season novice. I think people generally are a little bit disappointed if a Supreme is won by a second season novice.
Surely the Redemption Day though. Surely, like, because when did he run in the bumper?
8 by the time.
Yeah, 2022. I think he ran in the champion bumper, right? So this would be 3 years on from that.
Good ground, and they've also mooted that he might have spins in the flat anyway. So it would not be guaranteed that he would.
So he either can't jump, or he's had injury issues, and for that 10-1
Both
Twisted
probably,
Pain,
isn't it?
yeah, like I think it's madness. Salvatore Mundy obviously is the kind of one. Even last season we were thinking he could be a kind of second season. Obviously did it with Gaelic Warrior. I mean, he goes out in Tipperary and beats you and I. Like it's taking nothing from that because the form of that is non-existent. But just the fact that they're mentioning the Royal Bond, they clearly have a kind of early target for him.
Yeah, I mean, and forward, and I mean, in Mystical Power won it last year, and he was out really early. So I mean, you can kind of see the trend there. But I mean, he has a triumph season. Maybe he was a bit too backward for it in reality, but strong word from him support. He ran pretty well, but you would think flashier things would come out of the woodwork and be unexposed and get to him by springtime. That's the issue there you would have with him. So second season obviously Supreme wouldn't be for me, but he's always starting point there. Yasmin Devoy's always starting point there. Albert Bartlett's anyone's guess really.
The bumper horse I really liked last year at Punchestown was Kopek the Boards. Now I see obviously
he seems to be the highest there in the Bartlett for me. I wouldn't know anywhere near enough about him.
Yeah,
pigeonhole him at all at what he can do.
And the other one,
he's probably got 10 of these that you can think about. So
yeah, the other one that obviously is quite high in the Bartlett market, who ran in the bumper, was Sounds Victorious, and he looked a plodder. He looked a Bartlett horse, so he's quite high in the market. But again, we'll revisit this in March.
Was one I was quite keen to keep an eye on with a view to that. But then there are winners that are coming back from like nowhere. I mean, Quebecois was in that. And he was completely unsigned in the champion bumper, and they are winning. They should be winning the main hurdles. If you think you're good enough for the champion bumper, you're doing what you're entitled to do. But and at the time, I was looking at that race, thinking I don't think it's overly strong, and it turns out that it might well be. You've just got to see if when the new arrivals that haven't had bumper experience and the ones that will come in, how they mishmash. But it's not really something you learn until the start of 2025.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But it's something that will probably change every week. What were your takeaways from the Charlie Hall?
To see the real whacker back, it was a good performance from the front. I think he was fitting forward for it, and the rest probably weren't. Brave Man's Game, it travelled up ominously and found Zilch, and I think any kind of bid for Grade 1 honours now with him is gone. I think he's been kind of found wanting a little bit. And I thought he was borderline a bet, 11 to 10, because he was the classiest in it by some way. I would have trusted Nichols to have him reasonably forward because of what happened last year when they got it wrong. I think they'd be quite keen to redeem himself quickly. He's just come there looming and been fended off. The real whacker's back to decent form, but I think it is what it is. It's solid Grade 2 form. I mean, he's going to go out there. They'll probably try another Grade 1. They'll probably try Gold Cup down the line. I mean, you'd be interested in a Denman chase or Cotswold chases the Lingfield race. I think that's their level. I don't think they're festival spring class.
No, I don't either. I think I had half in my mind Brave Man's Game for a Ryanair, but I don't even think
I would like to see him maybe ridden more aggressively again from the front with some headgear on. Might spark something. It's got to the point now where they have to try something different. Be an aggressive 3 mile from the front, be something like that. But one thing will surely happen next time is that he's probably going to be dropped down in grade.
Yeah, I think absolutely. Right, we've kind of touched on this a wee bit. Do you have an early handicap plot for us?
A plot at this stage is, but I mean, Joseph O'Brien's already and JP McManus already been at it out for a stroll. He's been out for precisely that, for 2 runs over hurdles at a very softly debut where he was staying on nicely by a length in his first time out. Second time out was less encouraging, but he was equally at the back and again making ominous ground up the straight and not reaching the leaders. So he's had 2 outings, green and gold, Joseph O'Brien. You're already looking Boodle's friend winter type already. He's not going to be missed in the market when people start mentioning it. It's going to take a long time yet for the market to form, but you've seen the movie before. You've seen the kind of type of thing. If you just Google those 2 runs, it is exactly what you think it is. I mean, it's quite. I mean, Galway Galway was a little worse, in fairness, when he was fifth. You know, he was actually prominent early, lost his touch, and came back, hit a couple, stayed on nicely towards the end. You know, it's good ground. But I mean, the run at Gowran where he was painfully not in the race, he was fifth, he was beating a length, and he was staying on like anything best of the line, and he wasn't asked any sort of question as well that day. So yeah, those two runs were eye catching. So, but I mean, it's not a concrete. It's definitely not a set kind of block. But I mean, he's just one that I stuck in my tracker for something like that. And I think that's kind of the way to go at the moment now. Is just spot what you like and keep a note of it, and look back in the future and see, is this still on, and things like that. I think that's the way to play it.
Yeah, the one I had that again, it might just be, I always like a county hurdle. I nearly look at the county hurdle. There is a market for the county hurdle actually on William Hill, or sponsoring the race. I can see Ethical Diamond maybe being looked at. I know it's the same owners as Absurd. They will get runs into him just to try and get him experience. 20-1. I'm not bet it yet, but that kind of profile, like looking last year, didn't ran no race in the Triumph Hurdle, and I don't think he's good enough for graded quality. He might be one for a county. Nothing really else. Again, it's probably tough to say.
Well, everything. That's the thing with the start of the season. I mean, everything is probably a distinct possibility. I mean, it could happen, but you're betting 20-1 now for a handicapper for something in March. You know, it is a sign of absolute madness. I mean, the market's just been formed. They're guessing as much as we are. Mm-hmm. It's so far out. You know, and is he going to be? He might be the most obvious plot since the dawn of time, but is it worth taking 21 right now? We've got no idea. Well-being trained on 495. What's he going to do? Is he even going to jump a hurdle? Is he going to fences? You know, to take that kind of risk when maybe there's like 10, 15, 20 in the yard alone.
Non-runner, no bet, yeah, but not now. Not at the moment, I think.
I think like maybe there's normally kind of a window of opportunity around maybe end of January, start of February, where you start really kind of thinking about these things. I mean, Paul Nicholls' stable tour's pretty in depth. They only thought about Montmoral for Per Tomps at the start of the end of January, February, when they can kind of backtrack an avenue and say,
I think he's in the qualifier again at Aintree this week.
Yeah, maybe we can try this kind of thing. So if somebody's mapping out something right now, then I would like to think it's been from running in it last year. You know, if they were going to do that, obviously, I think if you're doing it right now with the novice, I think it's quite a long way away to think about it yet. So, but yeah, I would just advise anybody that if you spot something like a race, if you're watching a race and you think, oh, that's got something in the future, just put it in the tracker and remind yourself, and you'll get an email or a notification letting you saying this will run today. Mm-hmm. And then look at that race, and then you think, oh, is today the day?
Yeah.
And you can evaluate it in isolation. I think that's a good way to go.
Right. Final question before we kind of get into anti-post. What is your non-Cheltenham nap for the season? Now, if we'd done this a week ago, it would have been Faster Slow in the King George. That plan has went up in smoke. Mine is in the pocket, Manifesto Novices Chase on the opening day at the Aintree Festival.
Wow. I'm amazed that it's beyond the Cheltenham Festival.
That to me is like, if you were to say, what's the one race he'll win, that'll be it. I think he's, again, the Bromhead's factor with novice chasing. I don't, even if like, we've obviously said, that the grade 1 isn't there at the festival. Fairy House will probably get used as well. The Bromhead targets that Aintree Festival quite well. I think he'll go there way in the pocket, and I think he'll win.
He did that as a novice hurdler, didn't he?
No, as a novice hurdler, yeah. It was the Mersey, I think he won, yeah. Same distance.
And found a bit more, so yeah, it's possible. Mine's is equally obscure, probably. Get Make on the Welsh National.
Oh, okay.
So, I mean, he's second in the Kim Europe for like a 1:33 on the way you're thinking now looks ridiculous form. Mm-hmm. He's on the same mark. He went here in the Scottish Grand National and was third. On good ground that he didn't like. I mean, I was there that day. I quite fancied him, but I was worried about the ground. He was always prominent in the market. he ran really well, but he just didn't have the gears over that. So and the national that is always invariably bottomless. The trainer's already come out and said we'll target this off 133. This could be the good thing of the year, surely. I mean, if I know the way you're thinking is rated about 160 or something now.
Yeah.
I mean, he did right. I mean, he's won on the bridle, but in his second, but he was comfortably the second best horse in that Kimure.
158. I know the way you're thinking.
158. Skipmaker's 133. Yeah, he's obviously not a stone, but I mean, he's almost not a stone within. I know the way you're thinking, but he's definitely got something up his sleeve from 133. And when he's got his actual conditions and ground, and the Welsh Nassau, and last year's renewal was awful, and it was won by Nassalam, and he get this massive hike because he's the only one that could remorselessly gallop on horrible ground. I can just see him doing the same. Unibet only fund that price it up, and he's going to be well found in the market. I'd be amazed if he doesn't go off favourite, but I think he's the closest to long range banker material that you can possibly think in a handicap race like that. I mean, given the depth of it last year, even if you ran in it last year, he would have made Nassau a lot to think. And Nassau's, I mean, his mark is now gone for the foreseeable. So I mean, it's likes of Iron Bridge, the same type of horses that will go there that they aren't obviously well in, don't really attract classy horses. It's very specific. It wasn't a big field last year either, where you'd think it would be international because of the extreme ground. You just hope that they get the desired rain, because if they do, and they should do at that time of year, because it's right Christmas, New Year time, and you think and the trainer targeting a long way out, get some decent nick, which he should do, then he's bound to go close, really, with his back form and his mark, and there's just so much it seems to be in his favour.
The other one I had, but again the prices kind of went. Di Sartinos for the Greatwood. If it's, I think she's a short price.
Well, that's the thing. That's the thing where it posts. I mean, I was thinking at the start of the season, before the October meeting, you would think, well, she will be very hard to beat, but then you see 3 or 4 that are mapped out for it nicely a little bit. Willie Mullins will send something over that you've not heard of. Elliot Mullins might do the same, and it'll get backed off the boards and things like that. I mean, you can wait with a horse like that quite comfortably in the day, because you can see things closer you get. You can see things develop, and the price you thought would be absolutely exceptional all of a sudden isn't. And you've identified the right one very early, but you've backed it at the wrong price because you've backed it too soon, because we haven't seen the alternatives, and the alternatives come out and you can dismiss them and then go in at a bigger price. So she's obviously high in the market for that. Ollie Murphy's map one out as well. That's well fancied. Harry Derham as well. So yeah, you're gonna get a lot of challenges in that race. It's a race where you think, there's not going to be much in this, and then it suddenly starts to develop.
Right, we've got action this weekend. Obviously, we're not going to go kind of too in depth on this, but we do have a Grade 2 on Friday. We've got the Holden Gold Cup. I've just seen declarations. You've got JPR1, Jello, Cheltenham, Scarface as well. Anything kind of jumping out for that?
Not really. I mean, I like to see Captain Teague entered in Exeter.
Yeah.
Early race there. Good ground. Is he going to take his chance? But there's only 3 runners. I mean, it makes limited betting appeal. Golden Gold Cup, I like GPR1. I think he might want it maybe a bit softer than this. Top weight. Jello's a good horse. Could run well. Sans Brute, apparently Paul Nicholls says that he's improved tenfold this year. Interesting that Bryony Frost is keeping the partnership. He's riding in France and coming back there, so that's an interesting jockey booking. On that front, I think Jello would be the one that I would side with at the moment, but my opinion could change on it. We've
got action on Saturday as well. We've got action at Wincanton. We've also got action at Aintree. We've got the Grand Sefton, Ferrero Bamboo there. You've got Percussion, Arizona Cardinal, Late Night Pass, Eldorado Allen. They're kind of in the market. Anything for
that? I mean, Wincanton in the Elite Hurdle.
Yeah.
I mean, Lions, this is probably a float up for maybe a Greatwood. again,
Mm-hmm.
like that. But Rubo, he won at Kempton. Good ground easily. He's meant to go chasing. They're keeping over the hurdles. He's just plundering this early season prize again, isn't he? He won it by 4 lengths last year. You'd think he'd do the same again. Even money is no giveaway. It's just hard to see him beat on that ground. Lump sum might be slightly interesting given he won the Welsh Champion hurdle. Good to soft, but he'd been pretty forward for that. So yeah, I mean, I think Rubo's hard to beat Wincanton. It's just kind of grounds. I mean, I know they're there at the moment, but are they going to hold their ground? I mean, quite a few of them decide against it. Being Hillcrest is supposed to come back at Aintree, 55. You'd be pretty surprised if he does on good ground like that. I mean, there's just horses like that where you think, are they really going to chance it on those conditions? Percussion's one that doesn't mind it like that. Late Night Pass is 11, but the trainer seems pretty excited for this contest. Sure Touch was quite good in Perth, then good at Market Raisin, where he won the kind of good summer plate by a neck from Soul Icon. He could go in again, but he's got to take to these fences, hasn't he? Frere Bamboo usually runs his race, but without kind of winning. Outlaw Peter's a good horse. I think Arizona Cardinal's pretty interesting because he's probably got the best course and distance form for a specific nature of that. Pulled up at Chepstow, it's a little bit disconcerting, but it's a reappearance run, that could happen with a view to this. He could run well at 10s, but it's a race that I've not really pinned anything down yet. There's a decent card at Clonmel as well on Thursday, with the Clonmel Oils running and the Allegory Devassi running in a mare's chase as well. So, there's interesting stuff. It's still mainly watching brief at the moment, but I will get involved in a few things on the day.
Right, final part of the show, Callum. We have anti-post folders every season. We usually have a lucky 15 as well.
Yes.
What do you want to do?
Yeah, I mean, I just don't see much value for me going in a lucky 15 at the moment because I just think everything in the established market is pretty much too short. I mean, if I'd one flyer at the start of the season that's entering the Mayor's Huddle, I've no idea whether that's good or not, or bad or not. At the
Didn't see her in the stable tour, did you?
No, but I mean, it's sport and life, so they won't have covered. They've only kind of covered the real kind of genuine top notchers and ones that come to mind. So when the Racing Post ones come out, the in-depth ones come out, you'll know a lot more. So I wouldn't rule anything in or out by not seeing her name yet. I wouldn't be panicking about it. That's for sure. So, but I mean, it's a flyer anyway. I'm kind of sticking to I'm not betting anything sub 16, 20 to 1 at the moment. And I certainly won't be probably before Christmas unless I'm like 100% sure it's a good thing. It's just too far out taking short prices at the moment.
Right, okay, I've got one. I've actually got two, but I'll wait until you come on the board. I'll get my first one in the now. You know how much of a fan I was last season of Ben Pauling, and you know that I fancied Diva Luna for the Aintree bumper. She is 16 to 1 at the moment for the Mayor's Novices Hurdle. Maureen is 4 to 1.
Yeah.
I know where I'm going. Diva Luna 16 to 1 for the Mayor's Novices Hurdle. Again, I've read a couple of things from Ben Pauling. He thinks a lot of her, thinks she's going to take high regard in that division. I'm getting my boat. I thought she ran a very, very good race in that Aintree bumper where she kind of just went for the front. It was like a very open race. She was 13 to 2 that day. There was a Skelton horse that just didn't run a race at all. Mullins had a favourite as well for Patrick that just ran flat. But Diva Luna looked to me to be the best horse, the best form. She'd won 2 bumpers. She'd beat the horse that was. She was second in a point to the horse of the Skeltons that was joint favourite, I think. She just, I think to me, like right now, Maureen's price is ridiculous. Whether you think she's the best horse in the world or not, she should not be 3 to 1 for a Mayor's Novice Hurdle at this point.
No, I'd agree with that for sure.
But Diva Luna, I think at 16s, when she's won that bumper, the stable seemed to be very high on her. I think she ticks a lot of boxes for me, and I think at 16 to 1, she's enough of a flyer to go right. The price is there to have a flyer, and she could kind of go down, not that it's the same yard, but Dysart Enos kind of went down the route and the penalty's not there. So she can kind of go for these races. There's not a lot in Britain, I don't think. I think 16 is a good price.
I mean, I'd rather keep my money in the pocket at the moment. I mean, I've not seen any of these jump hurdles yet. And there could be a horse that, maybe about 10 horses that Willie Mullins has that he's just going to name. It's going to be Mares North Sutherland. They're going to shorten and other yards as well. I mean, I think there's a couple, Nicky Henson, that they like.
Mm-hmm.
Let It Rain of the Skeltons is a name that's popped up. Anno Power, Harry Fries has been well touted at 33s. I think a flyer in that division, I think at a price like 33-1, I think could maybe get involved there. I mean, if I had a gun to my head and you're forcing me to bet that market, that's where it would be at the moment. But the good thing is we don't need to rush into it and everything. But yeah, Devil in It, it's got decent bumper form. Ben Pong's a yard going places. It's had a yard switch. Recently they're adjusting to that. He made an impression at the festival last year. He's getting better horses. And he's talked this one up, and rightfully so. The bumper form stacks up, as you say. It's the right kind of bumpers to be in for a future Mares North Hurdle. So you can see the case, but I'm just not compelled to play at any point at the moment.
Yeah, we aren't gonna have a pick every single week. What we're gonna do a bit more is we're gonna do like trackers, and like eventually if we want to pull the trigger we will. I just think at this point she could come out in the next couple of weeks, smash up and not be 16-1. So I'm just gonna get her in early as well. There's a few more there. I have done a lucky 15 that we'll maybe reveal at some point, but again, prices aren't really changing much, even with the stable tours. I haven't seen enough changes to really kind of like pull triggers on a lot of ones, but we are going to spend a bit more. Like we'll do like trackers, like horses coming up, kind of things like that. So I mean, it's different anti-post punting these days because like that even a couple of years ago, like I remember down Royal, I remember going quite high on Sir Gerhard and like Calixios, and then like some of them went off bigger prices in the day, and you got them then. So
a lot of them, I mean, and I think like 89% of horses that ran at Cheltenham Festival were bigger on the day than they were in January. So I mean that's the kind of thing. I mean, you anti-post wise, you want a price, you want a lot in your favour. You want to kind of think that you've spotted something that others haven't, and you're getting the best price for it. You need a lot of factors to go your way to even get a run, and that should be factored in the price. And at the moment, it just seemingly isn't. And I think a lot of it seems to be kind of maybe betting for the sake of it a little bit to kind of generate some interest. And I think that's fine, but I think that's fine if you're doing it at a price. If people's ceilings are like, I mean, if you think Gaelic Warrior, you could have a hardened opinion on a horse and go for it and follow it all season. I mean, no qualms about that. I mean, you could think Gaelic Warrior, say, that's a Ryanair horse, 61's fine, it's going to blitz them, I don't care what's going to come in. I've looked at the rivals, you're content with that, fly ahead and do it. Same with Tia Hooper, you say, well, all he needs to do is get there. I'll take 9-4, because he could be 1-2 in the day if he's just got the same lot of rubbish to beat. So I mean, people just have different ways of different doing things, and they will get involved because they love it and they are really excited by it. And there's no right or wrong way to do things. You know, it's like personal punting preference. I mean, the moment I think if you're doing kind of shows like this, you've got to kind of recommend good prices, good odds, and good terms, and formulate a kind of reasonable case for backing it within. I mean, you're kind of maybe recommending an option for others, but I mean, you just have to kind of look at it, eat your mind up, take things on board, play it as quickly or slowly as you can within reason, and just be comfortable in what you want to do with it. At the moment, at the prices and this far out, I'm not really comfortable betting anything at the moment. I would rather kind of just wait in and assess the situation. I can understand that maybe straight after Cheltenham where you're going, I can see that running next season and stuff, but now with the summer in, I think this is the kind of temptation point where people really kind of want to have a little bit of a go. Yeah. And it's the worst time possible because, well, if you wanted to have a go, we haven't learned anything of significance between March and November now this is now the time where we're going to start learning a few things. Why would you want to play at a bad time and a bad price?
Well, I'll give you an example, right? I'll say my patent for that for next year. You know, I do my patent after
Yeah,
Cheltenham.
yeah.
Ballyburn for the Turners was 72. That's now a void bet. Sir Gino for the Arco is 8-1. I think he's still 8-1. I think he's actually higher in some places. And El Fabiola was 2-1 for the Champion Chase. He's now four's best price.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that kind of tells you one is a void bet. One probably hasn't moved much, and one has had a disappointing run since and doesn't look to be going down that route. Looks to be going Ryanair, and we might not see him after Christmas.
The schedule's changed.
And the
That's the
schedule
risk you
changed.
take immediately
That's the
after
risk
it.
you take, yeah.
And then that's the kind of like the fun time of it. Well, I'll still monitor Cheltenham because I've got this in the off season when the flat's on, so you can kind of encourage you to keep tabs on things that bet. So your value in that bet is not necessarily winning it; it's your interest level. It maintains that. It's kind of like you're constantly checking and changing the vibe, and it'll be a token sum for a big pot. So
Yes.
it's like buying a very early lottery ticket, really,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Yeah.
It's an informed opinion, but everyone knows the risks and everyone knows how far out it is. I mean, I used to do it. I haven't done one recently because A, it's hard to really oppose Willie Mullins. B, he changes it up quite a lot, and you're second guessing yourself out of it. And when you start doing that, then it's not your own kind of real opinion. So I just kind of shortlist horses at Zenta. I know Power at 33s for the mares and novices is interesting, and you know if Harry Fry keeps talking her up, and he can win a novice at Cheltenham Festival, and he's done it before, so he could do it again if he's the kind of star and he's not afraid of a go. So I think that horse is interesting. There's a couple of ideas at 50, 60, 61. I think Quebecois for an Albert Bartlett isn't too bad at 40-1 at the moment or something like that. So those are the kind of things that I'm looking at the moment. It would be those kind of prices and digging a little bit deeper and maybe being happy to take like a kind of 25s instead of 40, 50 to one shot when I know more, or something to triumph that, you know, if information goes, it could be steamed into sixes, rather than kind of I just want to take a 25, 31, 33 to one shot because I can say I've taken a flyer in this and it's shortened. I know what I'm talking about, kind of thing. So yeah, I'm resisting the temptation at the moment, but there are ideas there. Just because you're not betting doesn't mean you're not looking at things. So yeah, have the idea. And when we're looking back at what we did last year over the shows, my best bet was Hewitt by a mile, and it was by a mile the most convincing case. I mean, and it was by a mile the most in depth I looked at it.
Yeah,
I tried to cover every possible angle on it: trainer, ground, form, opportunity. Is it going to cut up? Time frame, price, opposition, everything, and a lot of it didn't go right, but it still came up. It shortened. It did cut up, not to the degree that I thought it would. The ground didn't come right. I knew anybody could ride him, but I wasn't expecting Gavin Sheehan on board and things like that. And I was expecting him to be ridden more handy than he was, and he was out the back. He won in a total style that I didn't think he would do. So, I mean, in a roundabout way, you know, a bad bet placed right now, it could look like a stroke of genius. I mean, the patent towards the end that helped get me a big deposit in the flat. The last leg was Manila Indo win a Gold Cup at 16-1. I mean, he started the season really well, and Christmas was a disaster, and you think, oh, he's got absolutely no chance, and then all of a sudden he comes back in and he's hammered in the days. Henry de Bromhead's second string, he get back to 9-1 and he wins. Would have had much confidence in him doing that? Not really, but you know, it can happen. So yeah, it's just a reminder that market, you might look at things and lack inspiration, but things can change and opportunities will happen, and it's all about kind of trying to get the right price at the right time, which is the ultimate challenge in anti-post.
We obviously will wrap up the show there. Callum, I want to thank you as always for joining me, and we're looking ahead to a very exciting jump season. I think we've covered a lot there, and no doubt everything will change in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, no, it changes all the time. Even when it looks like it won't, it will. So, yeah, it's the first baby step to hopefully an exciting season ahead.
Absolutely, and we'll be back as always next week, folks. See you all soon. Thank you.